So as part of Spina Bifida Awareness Week, I had the opportunity to talk to another person living with spina bifida. And I'm really honoured that this young man came and spent some time with me on a video call this time. So not an audio call like we had earlier in the week, but a video call. And this guy is called Ben Kelly, and Ben runs his own limited media company, which is just amazing. And I met him at a networking event, as we discuss within the video. What's really interesting about this one is again, it's another story of growth and development and change, and how his spina bifida has influenced him in the direction he's taken. But what I found really cool about this is the fact that he ended up in bed being interviewed as well, and just the sheer determination of him to want to come on and talk to me and tell his story, that he's willing to do it from his bed when he was unwell. So grab a cup of tea, grab a cup of coffee, whatever drink you fancy, sit back and watch the interview between me and Ben Kelly. Cool. So with Spina Bifida Awareness Week coming up, it's probably this week when I'm recording this anyway, or the week after. It's when this video comes out. I am joined by the most amazing young man called Ben Kelly, and Ben is going to talk to you about his story around spina bifida. And just a bit of background as to when I first met Ben. We live fairly close to each other, and we both met at a networking event, didn't we?
We did.
It was great, and Ben wheeled himself in with all his advertising and all of his signs, and then told the most amazing story. And it was at that point when he told this story that I realised that we both have spina bifida, and I was really keen to get Ben to get you on and have a conversation with you, because your story is amazing and I think it needs to be shared even more. So tell me about yourself. Tell me where you came from. Tell me where all this began.
So I am a person from Bromsgrove in Worcestershire, and my parents live in Bromsgrove in a little cottage. And it all started 35 years ago. I had to think how old am I then?
You're much younger than I am.
I don't know. So 35 years ago, I was born, and that's where my story began, really. But technically, it began 9 months earlier than that, because I was in the womb. And so it really does actually start pretty much at the start of labour. It really does. So my mum had, I think it was problems within the pregnancy, birth, etc. But it was a normal birth to the point of what happened and stuff. It just happened that I didn't grow properly, as far as I'm aware. Again, this is 35 years ago, so I'm just going on what I know. Yeah. So I'm gonna skip all the graphic detail. I'm born with an open back. An open back is literally where your spine is showing. Now, my spine is different to yours, the able-bodied person. So if you picture your spine as two columns with vertebrae, which are like my fingers, they click together and they form a perfect back. Now, mine, and I'm sure yours are as well, Dave, along the back, you've got your vertebrae don't mix. They don't nick properly. Now, depending on where on the back that break is how severe your spina bifida is. So mine is on my L5, I believe it is, which means I'm paralysed from, they're calling it the waist down, but there are elements of me that I can feel.
Yeah.
So it's not, when they say paradise and wasteland, yes, it is, but then there's variants of that. So that's where I was born, and that's my early part of my story. My story, really. Fast forwarding it a little bit, I went to an all special school where I went through my nursery, my middle school, my senior school, all under one roof. It's just different departments within the school. You go to different parts of the school for where, depending on what level you are. I literally went through normal childhood, normal as possible childhood, where I was in the school. Unfortunately, it's a school for the disabled, so it's not the typical curriculum. It's specialised for people with disability, right from the degree that I'm at through to people that can't walk, talk, etc., etc. So it's a very broad spectrum. Then, so I go through my usual school, my nursery, my first school, secondary school. I want to really concentrate on senior school and upwards, because that is pretty much where I become a normal human being, where I can start thinking for myself and making my own decisions, because that's what happened, right? Well, when I went to my department for the the year that you start doing your GCSEs and stuff, I was in a school that didn't provide GCSEs, and the reason for that is because there wasn't enough people with there was people in the school that didn't have the capability to do the syllabus. I wanted to be careful how I worded that.
Yeah, of course.
Just in case. But me and a few others in my year were capable, but they didn't do it because there was not enough people to do it. So it didn't make sense for them monetary-wise, etc. Anyway, so I did that, and I left school with below par, below GCSE standard education. I think I left with something like, if the equivalent to like a G, a G or an F in my education. So fast forwarding it again, I went to something called the National Star College, which is a centre of excellence in Cheltenham. Again, a college for the disabled, which is effectively in the middle of a field, lots of fields, because it's big. And it was great, but it wasn't the right fit for me. The reason why it wasn't the right fit for me is because I'm, again, more, I'm able-bodied upstairs, so to speak, where a lot of these students at that college, again, had learning difficulties, and it was, to me, it was a centre of excellence for everything, but it was a specialist in learning. in people that needed the learning, and like the I don't know how to say it. The people that are worse off than me anyway.
Got you.
Let's
Got
put it that
you.
way. I don't want to mince my words and don't want to be careful. So you know, let's just say that people that had issues with talking, and they had
Yeah.
communication devices and all that sort of stuff. So I was there. I did my computing course there, and I did my GCSE English and Math, because again I didn't do it at college. I didn't do it at school, so I thought I'd catch up at college to try and get on a playing level with everybody else. Unfortunately, because of my gap in knowledge from lack of teaching at school, because it wasn't the same syllabus, I actually went through my GCSEs and got an F in English and Maths. That's no good for anybody these days. If you don't get the qualification, you can't progress in life through jobs, through education, through nothing. So alongside that, at that college, I was doing something called a BTEC National Diploma.
I've got one of those.
Have you?
I've got a BTEC National in Computer Studies from Halzone College.
Do you know what? I actually think it's exactly the same thing.
It probably is, yeah.
But because it was more practical, I was like, I got on great with it.
Yeah.
So I did that. But I also did, I can't remember where now, but I also did a GCSE ICT. Now I got a C in that because it's computing. Because it's again, it was more theory. It was more, I could put my mind to it.
Yeah.
I thought, brilliant. So I got a C in that, and that's what got me into university. But I'll come on to that in a minute.
Cool.
So while at this college for the disabled, it was very much twiddling my thumbs, I didn't know what to do with myself, because I was no great expert at the English and Maths and all the academic side. I was doing my computing, which was great, BTEC National Diploma and my GCSE, but I just threw myself into I was offered the role of student entertainment officer on the student union, and I thought, yeah, okay, why not? Let's just give it a go. And it turns out that actually it was a really good role for me, because that's what started everything off. And you know yourself, but I'll explain to your listeners. There was about 200 people there, roughly, on this campus who had a variant of disabilities, but the college was 5 miles, let's call it, outside of town. So they couldn't go anywhere because they had to rely on staff to get a bus to take them into town.
Yeah.
So what you do when you've got 200-ish people in wheelchairs and walking and lots of disabilities, but they can't do anything. And the college gave me £150 per month to do entertainment.
Nice.
£150 a month. It just doesn't work. Because to put that into a bit of context, a DJ is £150 for one night. So that would be my budget gone in one night. It just wouldn't work. So I threw it back at them and I said, look, triple the money, double the triple the money, and I'll buy the equipment myself. So I became the in-house DJ to entertain however many students wanted to come to the disco, and they all paid the £5 on the door to get into this disco, recoup the money back, job done.
Nice.
But then I then took that further. I did that for about a year, organising the ball at the end of the year, etc., for that year. But then I left the college, went to university, because my education, my BTEC National Diploma and my GCSE got me into the university. Got me the grades that I needed to get into uni, which was brilliant. But some of your listeners will know this and some won't know this, but I've got something called, I get something called cellulitis every so often, which is an inflammation of the skin wherever it is. Now that can, if left untreated, can get so bad you can lose a limb through it. So I had it on my legs at the time. So that at university I was bedbound because I was disabled. I was allowed to stay on the campus. I was bedbound for the duration of my course. How can you be in a course and in bed and do the work? That they were sending me the work through email to do, but you can't do it unless, if you don't have the knowledge to do it. How can you do it?
Yeah.
So therefore, I wasn't in the classroom, so I didn't have the knowledge to back up the work. So I couldn't do it. Anyway, little bit pig-headed, little bit pig-headed that I am. I did it. I failed it. I left. I went back 3 times. Could you get 3 years? You get 3 years funding. So me being me, I just, just crack on. Unfortunately, every time I tried, I got cellulitis back because it comes and goes.
Yeah, it does.
I got it three times on the trot. Eventually, I knew that it weren't going to come off. So 2 weeks before the end of the course, I just jacked it in. I'm not proud of saying that I jacked it in because I don't jack anything in, but I gave up because I knew I weren't gonna get anything from it. So I ended up going back home to Cheltenham. So after school I moved to Cheltenham and to go to the college. After the college, I ended up going and getting my own house because I wanted to stay in Cheltenham with all my friends.
Yeah.
So I got my little house in Cheltenham. I then went to university, but keeping my house in Cheltenham. Kept going for 3 years, didn't work, so I went back to Cheltenham. Thought, right, brilliant. What do I do with life? I've failed at this, failed at that. I'm not a failure. In my head, I weren't going to let failure set in because that's just not me. What do I do? I was really confused. Then I I found out about a course through the Prince's Trust, and they put me on a course for the enterprise course, which gave me the business acumen and all the tools and all the knowledge to run a business. So I just put my passion, my thoughts of being a DJ for the college for the disabled with the business acumen, put them together, and Bob's Young Club became a DJ. So that was let's call it was like 2011, something like that. I think it was that I actually did all that, getting all the training and stuff and putting it all together. I did friends and family parties and stuff, and then 2013, I kind of just threw caution to the wind, and I thought, you know what, let's do it. The Prince's Trust gave me the money to buy my first equipment. So in 2013, I became a DJ, and I actually registered it with HMRC and made it a proper business as such. Since 2013, so it's now nearly 7 years old, I suppose. But in 2017, I had I basically came to the realization that any kind of money that I get in gets put into my normal account, which is great. Now, unfortunately, because I'm on benefits, because of my condition can be up and down, left and right, I can't do. I can't get rid of my benefits because I have to live. I have to have something stable coming in. So I had to go limited in 2017. In fact, it was November 30th, 2017. I remember that like it was yesterday. uh, I had to go limited to be able to become a separate entity so I can pay myself a wage below the threshold of what I'm allowed to earn personally. So all the extra money sits in the account and it runs like a business, and I've always got surplus money in the business. So that's how it all happened, basically. But yeah, so I've now been just coming up to 2 years as a limited company, and literally, I absolutely love it. The best party that I will do anything from children's parties, weddings, corporate events, adult parties, everything. I'll do whatever you want me to do. The one thing that I love the most, or the two things that I love the most, is the little children's parties. But when you get a 5-year-old, at the moment, something called Frozen is like the big thing, and you've got a princess called Elsa in that. And when you get a little 5-year-old, or sorry, a room full of 40 children that are all girls, and they're all fist pumping, singing a song called "Let It Go," thinking that they're on the West End stage. That is what I love. That is my calling, as they say. But then on the flip side of that, you put me at a wedding doing the first dance, and you have the bride crying because it's too emotional, and the song's making her cry, etc., etc. I wanted more of that, so I just added more to what I do and things like that. It's brilliant.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I love that. There's so much in your story, which is, yeah, there's bits and pieces which kind of resonate with me. I was very, to be honest, I didn't know I had spina bifida until probably I got to about 17, 18.
Okay.
Because it was never really, well, not in that kind of, I have a diagnosis. It was never really something which we talked about. And I have to say, my parents never treated me any differently to any other kids. I knew I wasn't good at sport. I knew I couldn't run particularly well. I knew my feet, or my left foot in particular, hurt at times. And I knew I had to go every year to the Royal Orthopaedic Hospital in Birmingham to have checks, which was cool, which was fine.
Yeah.
But there's some really interesting kind of parallels. So it sounds like we both did exactly the same diploma in higher education course, or similar.
Yeah.
I tried university directly after that and didn't get on. I lasted 5 days and came back. I went to do nursing. In fact, it was interesting. I couldn't get onto my nursing diploma course initially because I didn't have the one GCSE I needed, but I went and got that and then started at Brighton and lasted 6 months at Brighton and then came back and then did it 3 years in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So there's been this kind of, you know, movement forward, movement back, a little bit of sideways movement. And it's great to hear that as a story.
But I deliberately, I wanted to tell you my story in its entirety.
Yeah.
A little bit more that I didn't like say as I was going along, but I'll go back to it.
Cool.
Now I'm, let's call it 5 years in the clear. But 5 years ago, which this is a Spina Bifida Awareness podcast, isn't it? So everybody should know what a shunt is. It's a little bit of a tube that goes from your brain to your stomach. Everybody that is our kind of age group should have been fitted with them, so we know what they are. But mine was a prototype because I'm allergic to latex, as many people are with our condition. Well, my one that was fitted to me was a prototype, and it was great. It lasted, what am I now? I'm 35, so it lasted about 30, 31 years before it broke down. Suddenly broken down. I was living the life of Riley in Cheltenham, and suddenly massive headaches. And being a man, you ignore it, don't you? Like, yeah, I'll be fine. Well, these headaches got worse and worse and worse. I was in bed. I suddenly fell out of bed. The carers found me as soon as they came, and they rang an ambulance and nurses and all this. And the ambulance came and took me to the Cheltenham General Hospital, which was brilliant. No problem at all. Got there, obviously, pressure on the brain, I passed out or blacked out or whatever it was. The Cheltenham General Hospital couldn't do anything for me because they didn't have any specialists there, or I don't think they wanted to touch me because of the condition. They weren't a centre of excellence. But you will know something called the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham.
Oh yeah.
Centre of excellence. Absolutely. That hospital 5 years ago saved my life. Hand on heart, I don't care what anybody says, they did.
Yeah.
Because I was transferred from Cheltenham General to the QE. I was operated on straight away, and in intensive care and getting through the usual. I had 3 of these shunts put in the space of 4 months because they kept blocking for some reason. I don't know why, but the CSF fluid just kept thickening up and it kept blocking. But anyway, the last operation had 3 in 4 months, so I was in 4 months. The last operation, the guy, this is going to be a bit gruesome. I'm sorry for any listeners that
we like gruesome.
Yes, absolutely. But this shunt, stent, whatever you want to call it, got taken out, and the ventricle, the front ventricles in my brain got widened. Because at the time, the operation was 3 years old, so they didn't want to do it to me when I was younger or before, because why fix something that's broken that isn't broken?
Yeah.
So I presented with the problem. They've tried 3 new shunts, it didn't work. They took them out, and they widened the ventricles in my brain. Now, anybody that knows any kind of body knows about the body heals itself, right? So me being me, the happy-go-lucky kind of chap I am, the guy has got 30 years experience of what this condition is and brain surgery and all this. I woke up, he came round, the first thing I said, he told me what he'd done and stuff. I shook the guy's hand. I said, thank you very much. I'll see you in 6 months. He's like, what do you mean you'll see me in 6 months? Well, the body heals itself. So I appreciate you widening the ventricles and stuff, but if you cut yourself, you scar over and you heal. I'll see you in 6 months because these little holes that you've done are going to heal and you're going to have to do it again. 5 years in, I'm kind of eating my own words. And I'm like, maybe that 30 years of experience really does mean for something.
Maybe.
And then, obviously, then I was like back into my business and since a bit of recuperation. And then I hit back at my business and that's where I am now.
I love it. I love it. And the thing is, it's such a continuum with Spina Bifida, and every time I talk to someone about it,
yes,
they're at a different place, and there's not two people with the same presentation and the same symptoms. And I think it was Kayla I spoke to recently described it as a snowflake condition that I've thought about it first of all and thought, well, she's saying we're all soft, we're all snowflakes, but actually she means that, no two snowflakes are the same. They might look the same.
Yeah.
But each one, billions of combinations are different. And, you're talking about having the shunt, you're talking about the hydrocephalus.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting that one of the groups I'm in, it's an over 40s group for people with spina bifida and hydrocephalus with a UK-based charity called Shine.
Yes, I've heard of it.
You a member?
I'm a member, but I don't actively participate.
It's really interesting because I'm in their 40 plus group, and I only joined it about 5 years ago, so when I was 41, because I was really interested in what might happen, and there's not that much information about what happens as you age with spina bifida. And you talked about L5 being the problem place for you. Yeah. I know L5 is one of the locations the sciatic nerve comes out, so very much associated with lower limbs.
Right.
But it's really interesting, just that whole kind of continuum from one end to another, and you don't quite know what you're going to get. Yeah. I find it absolutely fascinating. So, life's pretty good for you then. I know we've got you in bed at the moment.
Yeah, and that's good. Like, thanks for touching on that. The reason I am is because as everybody within this condition that's confined to a wheelchair gets pressure sores, it just so happens that I've actually got a pressure sore on my leg at the moment. And you know what? The prescribed medication is bed rest.
Yeah.
Really? Bed rest?
Yeah.
Sitting in bed where it's going to get worse is better.
Yeah. But it's difficult, isn't it?
Unfortunately, you listen to the nurses and they are kind of right, aren't they, sometimes?
It is hard. And one of the things which I've found, especially when you have, lack of movement in the legs, and I found it with patients with people with other conditions as well.
Yeah.
Is when you lose, me walking around and standing at the moment, when I put pressure on my foot, my arch lowers, that pushes the blood into the calf. When I go up onto my toes, it pushes the blood into my thigh. When I use my thigh muscles, it pushes up into the abdomen, and then the breathing. And if you get any kind of interruption in that system, that's when you start to get problems with leg ulcers. And
absolutely.
Because you don't have the plantar pump, the calf pump, the thigh pump in the same way, that's exactly what you're going to get as well.
Yeah.
And it is a risk. It is a massive risk. And then for you with your history of cellulitis, it's a big risky place for you to have a leg ulcer as well, because there's a massive risk of cellulitis.
Absolutely. It's just bizarre that the way that you just described that actually makes perfect sense. I didn't know any of that about that blood flow and it pushes into this, that, and the other. But yeah, that'll be exactly why.
And I think, I mean, off topic to some degree, there was a patient I had a while ago who was paralysed from the neck down, pretty much. You know, well, he could breathe, he was okay with that, but the arms, body, trunk, legs, nothing at all. And there are devices out there which can actually, electrical devices, which help to actually stimulate muscles, which can help with movement. There's a thing called a gecko, which is a really weird device, which sits on the peroneal nerve, which is just on the outside, just below the knee, the outside of the leg, and it stimulates the muscles to help with circulation. But there must be somebody somewhere must have invented or be in the process of inventing something which can give, if you can't use your legs, can actually give you that kind of pumping and that pressure, help with the circulation.
It's bizarre because you'll know this with what you do, but I have something called I have bouts of it, lymphedema.
Yeah.
So I get that job again. That because of the blood flow and the having my leg down and all that all the time. So I suffer with that. Like not to the point where I get like elephant leg, but I notice it at the end of the day where my legs are a little bit redder, etc., etc.
Yeah, lymphedema can be, well, lymphedema is part of the immune system as well, so the lymphatic system is part of the immune system.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the figures I always have in my head, and they might be completely wrong. If I think for every 30 litres of fluid that's returned to the heart in the veins, 3 litres goes through the lymphatic system, and you extrapolate. So what we're looking at for that percentage wise, I can't work it out in my head. It's too much, but imagine if your blood flow was a bit like the motorway network. If you took for every 30 miles of motorway network, if 3 miles were done on motorways, but then you took those motorways away, all of it would have to go to the other 27 miles. And that's the problem with the lymphatic system, is when that becomes a bit sluggish, that fluid has to go somewhere else. And that's when you get the other problems as well. So who looks after your feet for you?
Me, myself and I.
You do your own. Nice.
I've got a chiropody to like help me with my toenails and that, because I've got odd shaped toes and stuff. But me and the carers just keep on top of it.
Cool. You've never shown me your feet. Normally, what people do at networking events is go, "Oh, you're a podiatrist. Let me show you your feet." So.
Yeah, a bit weird, that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, maybe after a few more visits to it. So, but yeah, all that kind of stuff, the foot care stuff, I know is massively important.
Just 1 second, I've got to make a note. Never network with Dave.
Yeah, I think that's a given, really, isn't it? So, I mean, the foot care element for you is massively important. And it's interesting because having had foot ulcers myself as well. Once you've had a foot ulcer, you kind of go into the higher risk bracket.
When I was born, when I was in my teens, I was in. I wouldn't say I was in bed with. I wasn't in bed with. I was at a hospital. Next to me in bed was an Asian girl, and she actually just come back from a theatre having her feet amputated.
Oh,
because of the same situation, because of the fluids, because of the ulcers, etc.
Yeah.
But that, in my opinion, I haven't kept in contact with the family, but I think that's a massive issue, because I think that was the family's fault, partly to blame, because they obviously didn't keep it on top of it.
Yeah, it's difficult. I had a conversation. Well, I say conversation. I emailed an orthopedic surgeon 6 years ago when I turned 40, because my left foot does a fairly good job, but it's still not as functional as my right. And I actually did for a while consider amputation, because even though the foot functions, by taking it away and having a prosthetic leg,
Yeah.
I'd probably be able to run and do more things. As it happens now, I'll show you. I've got it down here. As it happens now, I have a new brace which I've only just started wearing. These things are great, and it just helps with the foot drop I've got, which is kind of one of the symptoms as well. So, yeah, amputation's an interesting discussion to have, but when you've got problems with your legs, you do go down that route and think about those as an option. And for some people who listen to this and watch this, they may think it's really bizarre.
I was about to say, it's really bizarre because if you came along and chopped my leg off in my sleep, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So do I need it? Do I need my legs? No, I don't. Do I want my legs? Yes, I do.
Yes.
Because, and it's probably a mindset issue, I would feel even more disabled without a leg.
Interesting, isn't it?
Because I don't look normal without a leg, I would feel more disabled, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's that psychological perception, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
That's interesting, isn't it? It's all about body image and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm nothing to look at. That's just my opinion. But I'm worse without a leg.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It's up here, it really is.
I'm going to tell you, you're definitely something to look at.
Oh, thanks, sir.
We're all harsh on ourselves. We're all harsh on ourselves. So
just as I'm talking to you, I'm remembering parts of my story.
That's cool.
My last operation when I was in hospital, like 5 years ago, where they did the widening of the ventricles, it was a bleed on the brain I had as well as a result of the operation. So it's like a mini stroke, is what they're likening to. I had to have an NG tube because I had a stroke and my left side of my face all dropped.
Right.
It wasn't a stroke, it was paralysis in its entirety. So a week, even now, 5 years on, if you poked my left arm with a pin, it would take me 2 seconds to go out and get off. So that's permanent damage, but I can still use it. That's my carers. 1 second, just let him in. So yeah, I had that damage, but also I also had a stroke, which meant I couldn't use my mouth. So I had to have an NG tube to feed me because they were scared of me choking. But as a result of that stroke-like thing, I have a tightening of my jaw. So my jaw has locked because of the operation, because of having the breathing tube down me and stuff. Really bizarre.
Blimey. Yeah, I remember the nasogastric tubes, the NG tubes. I remember putting those in when I was a nurse many years ago, and they're not pleasant to put in. They're not pleasant to have.
No.
But they do a job. I was going to ask a question. It's a question I was going to ask.
Yeah.
One of the things which is really interesting for me about spina bifida is just that whole, everyone's different, that whole continuum. And I think that there is only, I believe, one consultant in the UK who specialises in spina bifida. And I think they're based down at the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. And I've been tempted to see if I can actually get a referral to go and see them, just for my own knowledge as much as anything else.
Yeah.
So when we have problems, we end up going along to see a general practitioner, maybe our podiatrist or, a surgeon or those kind of things. What kind of things would you want those healthcare people to, I suppose, to understand, to help, understand about spina bifida, to kind of help you better, help me better, help other people with spina bifida better?
Absolutely, and I'm afraid this has got to be the last question because my cards have just turned.
That's fine. No, we're up for that. That's cool.
But the biggest thing that I would have like to have known years ago is everybody's different. I've been to so many surgeons and so many doctors that like to tarnish you with the same brush, and I'm sorry, but I'm unique. Something that happens to you isn't going to be good for me. We have the same condition, but it's different.
I like that. This is a conversation which we will continue when I see you next in Bromsgrove for the networking. There's some loads more stuff that we can talk about anyway. But
definitely.
But you need to go and get yourself sorted with your carers. So
yes, it's only food time. It's only feeding it in the due time.
Well, that's always I'll have to do that in a bit as well. So Ben, I am so grateful for you taking the time coming on to talk to me today. I really do appreciate it, mate, and thank you very, very much.
No worries at all.
You take care, and I will speak to you soon, mate. All right?
Right, mate. Cheers,
Bye.
Good day, sir. Bye.